I'm feeling good in a safer space. I feel like I can meet other people who understand what I'm going through, meet other people who won't question me or who won't minimize what I'm feeling, who will just respect it and hold space for me. A space where I could just be myself. I don't have to worry about being too black or too ghetto or whatever they say. I could just be myself without fear of embarrassment. No judgment, no aggression, no fear, just fun.
Take my hand, love, lock your eyes in mine, elevate my soul, take me high.
Feeling different, sometimes excluded or even threatened, are feelings that are very present for a lot of queer and trans people of color. Have you also, at times, felt the need to center yourself, to step back and be in a place where you can be comfortable, where you can be yourself? Welcome to a safer space.
So a safer space is many things. I think before we can even talk about what a safer space is, we have to acknowledge systemic issues in our society. So sexism, homophobia, transphobia, racism. We have to acknowledge that these issues exist in our society, and so it's important to create safer spaces to help combat these issues, to create spaces that center the people who are most in danger of sexual assault, microaggressions, et cetera, et cetera. And a safer space is a way of protecting these people, of centering these people. And that is why these spaces exist, as a way for us to talk to each other about these issues in a way that will help us heal. Because of course, racism is traumatic to be experienced, especially when it happens on a daily basis in our society. And so these spaces kind of help us get a break from these incidences, as well as having spaces that we can talk about how we feel. And yeah, just a space that we can, hang out together, kiki a little bit, and just, have a really good time.
What are the origins of safer spaces?
The origins of safer spaces are hard to say because they have always existed. In the same way that Pride is in itself a safer space for queer folks to hang out and heal and get together and party, of course. So it can even, safer spaces range from Pride to even the thought of sending your child to school with the assumption that school is a safer space for the child. The assumption that the teachers will keep in mind the specific needs of your child, that they will support your child. Like, that is in itself a safer space. Safer spaces are very broad as a concept and have always existed.
Why do we need safer spaces for queer and trans people of color in 2018?
So the reason we need these spaces in 2018 is because in our society, not everyone is centered. Right now in our society, whiteness is centered, maleness is centered, able-bodiedness is centered, and many others, of course. This leaves out really much a really big portion of our society. And so that is why safer spaces are so important, because it's a way for those people who usually are on the margins of society and who don't feel like their voices are heard, can have a space where their voices are not only heard, but sought out. Their voices are valued and actually centered and actually the most valuable out of everyone else. So it's almost as a way of flipping the hierarchy, if you will, of society in a way to center the people who don't feel centered.
Is everyone allowed in a safer space?
Yes, everyone is allowed in the safer space. The only thing that we ask is that if you are not a person of color, that you reflect on your presence in the space. And if you genuinely feel that your presence in the space is benefiting the space, benefiting the people of color in the space, making the space safer, then of course you are welcome. So we're not going to be saying you're white, you're not allowed in here. We just ask that everybody who comes in takes the time to think about their presence in the space and how it will affect the space.
Where can we find safer spaces?
So safer spaces can be found everywhere. For example, in the States, they have multiple Black Pride, and so that is in its own a safer space for them. And then at our Pride now, we've started having a safer space. Last year was the first year that we had it. And if you think about it as well, in different universities and CEGEPs, there are different queer groups, there are different POC groups as well. These are all efforts to create safer spaces for these folks who do not feel entirely welcome in their school.
How to create a safer space?
We can create safer spaces by simply listening to people. And so we're creating rules for the safer space, specifying, do not touch people without asking first. Make sure that you ask people's genders before assuming their gender, because that is misgendering and can be really, really traumatic for a trans person. And so it's important to really keep all of these things in mind. And that's how we can create a safer space.
Maybe you will want to create your own safer space now.